Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, we're living in a world absolutely flooded with information.
Totally. Alerts, headlines, market data. It's
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah, and the pressure, especially in high-stakes stuff like trading, it just never stops. We keep hearing, consume more, analyze more, go faster.
It's ahead externally.
But what if that's not the key? What if it's not about the external world, but mastering your internal one, managing your mind?
That's exactly the question our source material tackles, like head on.
Mhm.
We're looking at insights from someone with really significant long-term meditation experience.
Okay.
And they're connecting it directly to mind management and, well, how that boosts performance, especially in trading.
Right. So our mission here for this deep dive is to get past the usual theory talk you might find.
Yeah, move beyond just concepts.
We want to zero in on the core principles, pull out the really practical steps, maybe some surprising bits too, about getting that calm, effective mind.
And this is all drawn directly from the experience shared in these sources.
Okay, let's get into it.
So the author, they kick things off by emphasizing that mastering your mind, keeping it calm, focused, it's presented as like one of the most vital goals, not just in meditation, but in success psychology generally.
Especially for something demanding like trading.
Exactly.
And this isn't just someone who read a couple of books. This person, they've been seriously practicing meditation for thousands of hours.
Yeah.
Since 2004.
That's right. Thousands of hours. Working closely with a mentor since 2011. Even did a really intense, disciplined year of practice.
Wow.
And they're clear, while they've explored different things, 2 specific practices have been their foundation for over a decade.
And they make a pretty sharp contrast between that deep practice and, say, academic studies.
Oh, absolutely. They point out that, yeah, lots of psychology articles mention meditation and its benefits for trading, which is good for awareness, they say.
Yeah.
But they feel most authors just don't have the actual practical experience. They talk about it conceptually, maybe cite some brain studies, general wellness stuff.
So those articles might get you interested, but the source is saying they probably won't teach you how to actually do it or how tough it really is.
Exactly. Or how rewarding the process is. This source is really strong on this. Theory is just not enough. You can't get good at meditation by reading.
Doesn't matter how many books you read or how high your IQ is.
They're very blunt. IQ is irrelevant. You could be a genius, study meditation philosophy for a century.
Still won't help you progress in the actual practice.
Nope. The only way, they argue, is to physically sit down and do the work. On yourself. There's just no other way.
It's like that swimming analogy, isn't it? Knowing all the theory.
But never getting wet, you won't learn. And they stress, no magic bullet either.
Right. No pill, no quick fix.
It's all about the doing, the direct experience. Tips might help a bit, sure, but the core is the work.
Okay. So, based on all those hours, the author shares details on a specific type of meditation they found really works for trading performance, mind management.
Yes, exactly.
And they're clear this wasn't invented for traders, right? It's ancient.
Thousands of years old. They've tried various forms, but they're sharing this one because, in their experience, it's highly relevant, really impactful for performance in areas like trading.
What is it called?
The practice is shamatha. It translates from Tibetan as calm abiding. It's actually a huge system, lots of stages.
Okay.
But this source focuses specifically on the initial stage.
All right, before we dive into the how-to, what are the key benefits, the source links, to practicing shamatha consistently?
Well, they list quite a few. Increased mental discipline, clarity.
Okay.
Cultivating a really deep sense of calm, less mental noise, fewer distractions.
That sounds good already.
Yeah, and also less reactivity to emotions, but weirdly more emotional intelligence.
Interesting paradox.
And better pattern recognition, gaining insights beyond just intellectual stuff. They suggest the benefits are pretty extensive, really touch lots of parts of your mental landscape.
Okay, let's get practical then. The steps. Where do you start? Posture seems key.
Yeah, posture is surprisingly critical. It directly impacts your body, mind, energy during the session. If you've got back issues, they suggest a chair.
A straight back chair?
Right, something comfortable for a while. Keep your back straight, chin parallel to the floor, hands on your lap, palms down.
Okay.
You can also do that hand gesture. A mudra, they suggest index, fingertip to thumb tip, palms still down.
Right, I've seen that. And feet on a chair.
Knees shoulder width. Shins below knees, feet flat, toes slightly out, stable.
And if you're okay, sitting on the floor, on a cushion.
Yeah, a zafu, a meditation cushion, same posture for spine, chin, hands. For legs, just comfortable cross-legged, maybe right foot in front of left like they do.
Okay.
They advise against stacking ankles unless you're super flexible, no strain. And if your knees don't reach the ground, use small cushions under them.
Ah, support. Makes sense.
Yeah, prevents strain, helps you stay stable and alert for longer. Stable comfort is the goal.
Got it. Posture covered. Breathing.
The recommendation is deep breathing, and importantly, both inhale and exhale through the nose.
Both ways through the nose. Why?
The source explains it has this natural effect, calms the mind, slows the breath, relaxes the nervous system, helps the mind engage with the practice.
Okay. And where does your attention go? Your focus?
Eyes open. Keep them open, but with a soft gaze towards a single point, not a hard stare.
Relaxed gaze. Where?
Before you start, obviously, get rid of distractions, close charts, silence the phone. The point could be just a spot on the floor or on the wall a bit below eye level.
7 point. Nothing complex.
Exactly. Nothing with words or pictures that could trigger thoughts. But crucially, your primary focus stays on the sensation of the breath as it enters and leaves your body.
Just focusing on the breath sounds simple, but man, the mind jumps around.
Oh, yeah?
The source suggests a technique for that. Counting.
Yes, precisely. If you find the mind is just constantly wandering, struggling to stay on the breath, try counting. Count breaths from 1 up to 21,
Okay.
and then back down from 21 to 1. And the key instruction is, if you lose count, get distracted, thoughts pull you away, which they say will happen.
Guaranteed.
Pretty much, you just acknowledge it. Maybe think, release or let go. Gently, no judgment, return focus to the breath and restart the count from 1.
They have a really strong take on how hard just that counting is, don't they?
They really do. They say they'd be genuinely shocked if anyone could count 1 to 21 and back down without any internal chatter, any thoughts interrupting.
Wow, what was the number they used?
They estimate maybe 99.9999999% of people trying it initially just can't maintain the count without interruption.
That's almost impossible. Why emphasize that difficulty so much? What's the point?
Well, that extreme statistic, it's anecdotal but stark, right? It seems designed to just hammer home how habituated our minds are to constant distraction, internal noise.
Okay, so it reveals the default state.
Exactly. The scattered, easily distracted state of the untrained mind. The difficulty shows the scale of the challenge, which then highlights why consistent practice is the only way. It's not failure. It's the starting line for almost everyone.
That makes a lot more sense. Not judging the wandering, just recognizing it. And speaking of practice, they give some pretty sobering stats on sticking with it.
They do. They sort of map it out. Maybe 100 people try the shamatha practice.
Okay.
Only about 5 to 7 managed to keep doing it regularly.
Wow, that few.
Yeah. And of those few, maybe only 5 to 10% continue for a really long time.
Okay.
And even from that dedicated group, maybe only 5% actually progress significantly through the stages, complete the full shamatha training traditions described. They call it a high peak to conquer. Needs dedication.
That really drives home that this isn't just a casual thing. Real commitment, consistency over time. So for someone starting, aiming for consistency, how long should a session be? And when?
The source suggests 10 minutes, maybe a bit longer, is enough per session, especially at the start.
Consistency is the main thing.
Exactly. And to help with that, pick a specific, regular time each day, their experience. Ideal times are either first thing in the morning.
Before work, trading, emails.
Right, or in the evening, maybe 30 minutes before sleep.
And do they have a preference between those two?
They see both as really good windows. But drawing on their own long experience, the author feels the early morning practice is most beneficial.
Why morning?
They suggest it helps regulate your mental energy, focus, discipline for the whole day, sets a tone, maintains awareness and clarity through everything.
Makes sense. And how often? Weekly target.
They recommend aiming for at least 3-4 times a week. That's a solid baseline.
And daily.
Daily is presented as exceptional, highly beneficial. But the key advice is don't beat yourself up if you miss one. Just be as consistent as you realistically can.
The benefits are tied to that consistent effort.
Directly proportional, they strongly suggest. Now let's loop back to those benefits, the deeper stuff the source talks about, beyond just feeling a bit calmer.
Okay, what happens when you really consistently train the mind this way?
They paint this picture. As the mind gradually clears of that constant, often reactive chatter tied to external stuff and emotions,
Right.
It becomes naturally clear, inherently creative, more transparent, and naturally happy.
Naturally happy. Wow.
They claim that with dedicated practice, your effective IQ or cognitive function actually increases. Your ability to spot complex patterns improves significantly.
Better pattern recognition.
Yeah.
That's huge for trading.
And you start to gain this penetrating insight that goes beyond just smarts or knowing lots of information.
So it's not just quieting the noise, it's actively enhancing how the mind works, how it perceives things.
Exactly. The source uses this really striking metaphor. Through dedicated practice, the whole world around you gradually turns into this dynamic book of information that communicates with you.
Whoa.
It directly awakens your natural, innate intelligence. The reality you see now starts to shift, change before your eyes because your internal filter is changing.
That sounds profound.
Yeah.
Almost hard to wrap your head around. How does focusing on breath and posture lead to seeing the world differently, increasing pattern recognition?
Well, they don't lay out like a cognitive science flowchart. But the implication all through the source is, by training the mind to stay focused, less reactive to distractions, less pulled by emotions, you free up mental energy.
Okay.
You cut down the noise from the conditioned mind, the mind that's always interpreting things through past experiences, biases, fears, desires.
Filter.
Right. When that filter gets thinner, you can perceive information patterns more directly, more clearly, as they are. The practice builds that muscle of sustained, unbiased attention.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Stripping away the layers of projection and reaction.
Precisely. And the source states that the results gradually transform your whole being, body, communication, and crucially, your mind.
And that transformation then ripples out.
Into all parts of your life, and specifically, trading performance. The ultimate outcome they describe is your mind consistently working for you, not against you, in trading, in life.
And they wrap that potential up with a really powerful statement.
Yeah, they state that through consistent practice, you will eventually begin to see everything as it is, not through the limited, often distorted lens of that conditioned mind we talked about.
If those potential benefits aren't compelling reasons to check out meditation, the author basically says they don't know what is.
Right. They reiterate, yeah, it takes mental exercise, effort, perseverance, absolutely. But they truly believe with persistence, consistent practice, you will see these incredible results yourself.
Okay, so bringing this deep dive together,
Yeah.
the source gives this really strong foundation for why meditation, specifically this shamatha approach, could be transformative for trading, for mental performance overall.
We covered the huge emphasis on practice over theory, the detailed steps for sitting, breathing, focusing in that initial stage.
And the real challenge is just sticking with it.
Yeah, the difficulty is part of it. But despite that, the potential benefits outlined go way beyond just chilling out.
Right, impacts on cognition, emotional intelligence, pattern recognition, even how you fundamentally see reality.
The value proposition from the source is clear. You don't get these handed to you. You earn them through dedicated effort. But they can profoundly change how your mind works for you.
And the author actually invites you, the listener, to take these steps. Try the technique described in their sources.
And even share your experiences if you decide to take that journey.
Which brings us nicely to that final thought we wanted to leave you with. It builds on that idea from the source about seeing things as they are.
Right. The source suggests consistent practice lets you perceive reality more directly, less filtered by your personal history, biases, fears, expectations. The conditioned mind.
So here's a question for you to think about. What opportunities, what patterns, what maybe fundamental truths might you be missing right now? Not just in trading's complexity, but in any part of your life.
Relationships, career, creativity, understanding yourself.
Simply because your mind is currently showing you a filtered, conditioned version of what's actually there. Something to mull over.